Okay, so I posted a video and told you guys that at 10 likes, I would explain how the car almost killed me. Well, I'm going to explain it today, and I'm going to have 3 different stories. So, the first 2 are wrecks that I was in, and I wouldn't technically say it almost killed me, but it could have, because it could have been worse than it was. But the first 2 are wrecks that I was in. The last one is an even more deadly wreck that I personally was not involved in, but my little brother was. And I want to discuss it as well because it kind of also traumatized me as a child because I thought I was losing my little brother. So, let's get this hair out of the way, and we will do a little makeup. Get ready with me as I discuss these stories. Okay, so the first one we're going to discuss is the wreck that I was almost in with my grandmother. I was 8 or 9 at the time, I believe, maybe a year or 2 younger. I'm also going to discuss what I'm using. I'm using my e.l.f. primer first. And basically, her car was a Toyota Corolla. It was a bright red Toyota Corolla. And basically what was going on was she was on her way to take me home because she had gotten me for the weekend. And she was taking me home, and my grandmother had a very, very, very bad addiction when it came to pills. And alcohol as well, but the alcohol part of the addiction had kind of subsided as I came with the picture because she had fell in love with her granddaughter and was always spoiling me. But she still had her addiction to pills. So, from what I could understand and what I've been told is she was doing pills that day. And I was little, so I didn't understand what was really going on, but she was doing pills that day. And she had gotten really, I guess you could say high on the pills. And she was kind of out of it. And we came to a red light, and she stopped her car at the red light like she was supposed to. But then another car came flying out of nowhere during the police chase. They were being chased by a cop car. They came flying out of nowhere and hit us face on. Thankfully, neither one of us got really badly injured, but she was taken to the police station and arrested and put in a cell because she had pills in her system, and she had me in the car with her. I had the seatbelt on, thankfully, but I did have a burn from here all the way across from the seatbelt, from where it rubbed me, because I got thrown forward and then moved back. But that is the first wreck. The second wreck is not as bad, but honestly, it still kind of scared me. The second wreck that I was in, I was 13 or 14, I believe, maybe 15 at the most. And I lived with my dad at the time. He was a raging alcoholic. He did pills. He was very abusive to me. He always beat on me and called me names. And so, he had gotten drunk one day, and the girl he was with, him and her had gotten in an argument, and he got really mad about it and was drinking, and he forced me into his truck with him and made me go with him while he was drinking and driving. And I was already scared at that point because he was drinking and driving, and I knew myself how dangerous that was because I was at an age where I could understand it more. And well, we got about a mile down the road, and he was speeding and driving hellaciously, which ended up causing us to wreck. He was speeding so bad that whenever we went around the first curve that we came to, which was about a mile on the road from where we lived, he lost control of the truck, and the truck went speeding off of the road, and we rear-ended, or face-ended, however you would call that. We ran straight smack into a light bulb. And I remember I was bouncing around, being flown around the truck because the truck he had, which was more like a van, it didn't have seatbelts. I did it for the driver, but there was not one, a working one for the passenger, so I did not have a seatbelt on. I was being bounced around the floor everywhere, and I remember yelling, "Dad," and I was crying and scared. He just kept telling me, "Oh, it's okay, you're gonna be okay, you're fine." And we wrecked. The car did not get destroyed completely, clearly, because he backed up, drove off, and kept driving while drunk. Took me to one of his ex's house and dropped me off there and told me to stay there. Well, after he dropped me off, his so-called girlfriend he was with that caused him to get mad, he went back to her. Well, after he got back home, some stuff had happened between them, and he had to come get me. So I ended up going back with them, as much as I didn't want to, because I was already scared enough from him doing that. Oh, I forgot to tell y'all. This is the LA Colors Cover-Up Concealer Stick, and then this is also a concealer. I like to have a lot of concealer on. But anyway, so basically, that was a lot. Hold up. Put some over here. Basically, yeah, that was that wreck. So, the last wreck is going to be a little bit of a longer story. It involves my little brother. It's the one I told you that basically traumatized me. Because I was so scared that I lost my little brother. So basically what had happened is my brother was like, he was a baby. He was maybe 3 months old, maybe, if that. Like, it had not been long since they got him out of the hospital. It was like a month or two. So probably more like 2 months. But anyway, he was in his car seat in the back like he was supposed to, buckled up and everything. My mom was driving just like she was supposed to. It wasn't even her fault they had the wreck. But anywho, they were driving on their way to Spring Hill, Louisiana. That's where we always go to get our groceries, so Spring Hill, Louisiana, because they have a Walmart there. Well, they were on their way there, and a car comes up. This truck was driving beside them, and the truck was driving really, really recklessly, and the truck just kept, as she was driving, it kept scooting more and more closer to her, and every time it would do that, she would have to scoot over more to avoid it. Well, the truck just kept on doing it and kept going over and more and more and more closer to her. This is the elf powder, by the way. And before she knew it, she was losing control of the vehicle. And the car went, and she had another passenger in the car with her as well. She had our cousin Dalton in there with her as well. But the car went flying off the road, and as it was flying off the road, it was hard to flip, and it did like 360s. Both the front airbags deployed. The front airbag on the passenger side deployed and hit my cousin in the nose and in his eye, and his eye swelled shut, and it broke his nose. The airbag on the right hit my mom, threw her hands up to protect her face, and it hit her arm and caused severe like burns and stuff on her arm. And then my brother, he was in the back seat, and of course, like I said, there wasn't any airbags that deployed in the back seat, but the glass window of the back seat completely shattered and went all in his car seat. Surprisingly, and we still thank the Lord for this, he was not injured, didn't have any cuts, scrapes, nothing. This is a blush palette, by the way. And, well, basically, they were taken to the hospital. It was all three of them. My brother was not injured, thankfully. And I told you about the injuries they had. And it also messed my mom's back up really bad. It caused her to have some really bad back issues, which now she has herniated disc in her back that she had recently discovered that she didn't know she had, and we are assuming it is a cause of the wreck. But those are the three wrecks that I was in, or well, two of them I was in, my brother was in the other one. I do have a couple of more things that I'm going to share with you that are some other ways that I almost died. Two of them being whenever I cut myself really bad, and one step where I stepped on a nail and was bleeding heavily, and nobody had to carry me to the hospital. So the first one, I was 5 or 6 maybe, and I was in the kitchen. I had gotten hungry for a snack, and there wasn't anybody there for me to ask for help. They were all either outside or like in their bathroom doing something else. And so I went to the kitchen, took it upon myself, being stupid, and I grabbed a can of oranges, mandarin oranges. Well, it was a very, very bad idea, because whenever I did that, this is a highlighter stick, by the way, duo highlighter stick. Whenever I did that, I ended up cutting my finger. And because the handheld can opener that we had did not cut the can opener all the way, and so I ended up cutting myself, causing myself to bleed heavily. Well, my finger was bleeding. My mom tried and tried and tried to get my grandmother to take me to the hospital, because she kept trying and trying and trying to tell her and explain to her that I needed stitches, because my finger was bleeding bad. My grandma would not listen. She never carried me to the hospital. Thankfully, they got to stop bleeding. Now, another thing that almost killed me is I stepped on a nail one day. And stepping on that nail nearly killed me, because once again I bled and I bled and I bled, and my grandmother went on to take me to the hospital. So, yeah. And then, let's also discuss some ways that I've almost unalived somebody. I was a little kid, by the way, for both of these. I did not understand what I was doing, and I regret them completely now. And this is some ways that I very, very nearly unalived my little brother. The first way, he was, I believe, at this point, 6 months old or 7 months old. Or it may have even been, like, before the wreck happened. I do know that it was on Father's Day, because my mother was making a Father's Day dinner. And he was in the living room. He was laying inside of his little baby swing. He was laying in it. And I picked him up. At the time, I was like 5 or 6. I was jealous. I was a very jealous little girl at 5 or 6 years old. I could not understand why my mother was giving him more attention than me. I didn't understand any of it at the time. I was too young to. And I took him out of the swing he was in, laid him on the floor, put a pillow over his face, and I sat on him. Thankfully, my mother realized what was going on. They came in to stop me before anything bad could happen. Now, of course, I did this once again after we had gotten a little bit older. And this time, whenever I did it, it was during the summer, and we were a little bit older, but not much older. He was a toddler, so he was like 34, 2 or 3, something like that. And I was about 6 or 7 at the time, maybe 8 at the oldest. I was not very old at all. I was still young. Well, we were outside in the backyard in our swimming pool, swimming and just playing around. And me, being the jealous little girl that I was, still could not process and understand why he was getting more attention than me. And so I took him, stood on his back, and held him underneath the water until he went lethargic. And whenever he went lethargic, I got him out of the water and dragged him inside to my mother by his arm. Thankfully, he did not have to go to the hospital. He was perfectly fine. He came back to, and we didn't carry him to the hospital at all, thankfully. Now, I do regret both of those severely. I regret doing those to him completely. I wish I would have never done them to him. And, yeah. Now let's discuss a time where I lost somebody in my family to them being killed. And this is my cousin Whitney we're going to discuss. So, to start things out, she was in her early 20s, maybe mid-20s. She had 3 babies. She had just found out that she was pregnant with another one. And she was maybe a month, maybe 2 months pregnant. And she was a smoker, she smoked. But she went inside to get another cigarette. And then as she was coming back outside, she realized her shoes were untied. So she bent down to tie them. And whenever she bent down to tie them, her abusive boyfriend, he was beat on her and called her name, ran up behind her with one of the push mowers and hit her in the back and knocked her unconscious. And whenever he did that, her body obviously began to fall to the floor, on the ground. And whenever her body did that, he got on top of her with a knife and started stabbing her repeatedly in the stomach. And he stabbed her a couple of times, I believe, in the chest or the head. I don't know the full details, I just know like the main stuff. And killed her. And the worst part about this is that it was in front of all 3 of her killed children. All 3 of them. So in the process of killing her, he killed not only her, but also a mother. And he also killed a pregnant mother because she was pregnant. So he killed a baby and her. But yeah, killed a baby and he killed her. And he is in jail, I believe, still today. That was like a little over 10 years ago. I believe he's still in jail today. I could be very wrong. But, yeah. But yeah, those were all of the majorly traumatic times I had him. Well, I take that back. There's still one more that I have not discussed yet, and I need to go over that with y'all. So, this is the Wet n Wild SpongeBob collab lipstick. It's the Mr. Krabs one. But anyway, so this traumatic experience I had, I was living in California with my grandmother, and I was 10 or 11, maybe 12 at the time. And like I said, my grandmother had a very, very bad addiction to pills. And I called her several times trying to take them. There was multiple times I would go in her bedroom to ask her to get me something to drink, or to ask her to fix me some food, or like to ask if I could go play outside. And I would see her grab a bottle of pills and sneak it under her pillow to hide it. Well, there was one year, close to Christmas, that she went missing. It was Thanksgiving week. She went missing. She got up that morning, was hysterical. She was just crying and freaking out and worried about everything. And she called her brother Glenn, which is my great uncle, and she told him that she was done. She couldn't do it anymore. She was done. And she told me that she was going to go to the ocean. And normally, she took me with her every time she went, which that threw me off whenever she told me she was going to the ocean. Because I asked her if I could go, and she told me no. Well, while she was gone, went to my... What in the hell? Anywho, while she was gone, I went to my friend's house, which was next door. She lived right next door to us. She was my friend. I loved hanging out with her. We always did really cool stuff together. One of the things being dyeing our hair with Kool-Aid, but that's off the topic. So, she goes to the ocean, and it's been like 3-4 hours. And normally we only stay there for like an hour, maybe at the most. Which, when I noticed stuff was really going wrong, because she just wasn't like showing up back up home. She just wasn't there, and it was worrying me. So, we called my cousin Sylvia, which is the one that came and she came and picked me up, and I stayed with her while the whole thing was going on. They were trying to find her body, because 3 days later they found her car abandoned at the ocean. Her purse was still inside, her wallet was still inside, her phone was still inside the car, and they just couldn't understand why they found her car but couldn't find her. Well, a day or two later, they were back at the beach, looking over the beach again, trying to find her body, and they found her body washed up on the beach, along with the family of a mother, father, and I think it was a daughter or maybe a son. It was a baby. But the mother, father, and baby had been killed by ocean. I'm assuming ocean waves that maybe washed up and carried them away. I'm not 100% sure how they died. But my grandmother, they did like a little, they didn't do a biopsy on her, but they did do and they didn't even really do an autopsy. They just did like a small examination trying to figure out how she died. Well, the only thing that we found out was that she had died from blunt force trauma to the head and drowning. Okay, well, what threw me off with that is my grandmother was terrified of water. She did not know how to swim. The only way she would get near water is if she was taking a bath, taking a shower, or drinking it, or using it to cook something. She wouldn't even come near it whenever me and my brother was like in our pool swimming. She would stay back to the side and just watch over us from there. Well, that kind of threw me for a loop and kind of triggered something in me, and like, yes, there's no way she could kill herself because she wouldn't have gotten near the water. She was terrified. Well, to this day, we still don't know how she died or what happened at that beach when she got there. All we know is that it was blunt force trauma to the head and that she had some drowning. She had drowned. So, my assumption is one of two things. First being that it was just an accident, just a casual accident. She had slipped, fell, hit her head on a rock, and got knocked out and rolled in the ocean. And when she came to in the ocean, she wouldn't have been able to save herself. She would have drowned because she can't swim. The other thing is that she was doing pills really bad, so it could have been maybe a pill deal thing gone wrong. Maybe she was supposed to have had a certain amount of money to buy these pills or something, or she owed somebody money, and they met her at the beach and knocked her out with a rock and threw her in the ocean. There's multiple things that could have happened. Those are my two main things that I think could have happened in one of them two things. Because I just personally don't believe that she killed herself. Because she was terrified of water. But that is my story. Hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to know the products I used in this video, let me know. I'll be happy to share with you. And yeah.